Anyway, welcome to another episode of Pursuit. We're going to be continuing on our study, the last one of the year. Wild. But before we get into it, Chrissy brought the dogs out. So who let the dogs out? Chrissy. These are Oscar Mayer gummy hot dogs that are artificially flavored. I don't know what flavor they're supposed to be, but we're gonna find out.
Can I just say something before we do this? Because the whole point of this podcast, I feel like it's important we say, it's about pursuing Jesus.
Yeah.
How did we get to the point where we are trying out hot dog flavored gummy hot dogs?
We don't know if it's hot dog flavored.
That's why we have to try it.
It could be a regular gummy flavor for all we know.
Oh, it smells like a regular gummy. I just opened the
Oh, I
pack.
thought she was gonna say it smells like hot dog water.
All right, let's just see where this goes.
So there's only 5
Those are
of them,
mad big.
but there's 6 of us. So Asha and I have already agreed to share. We took a vote, and we were the quickest ones.
Yeah.
Kevin gets cut off. So.
Okay. Let's
If we
do
put it on me,
this.
I'm sorry you get cut off, so I'm just gonna keep it on you.
No, well, put it on you if it's who we're talking.
Why is the packaging wet on the inside?
No.
Don't say that.
Oh no. Okay.
See that? You know,
It is. Okay.
pursue Jesus and eat hot dog gummies at the same
So
Oh,
I
they
think
smell nice.
they do smell nice. They smell fruity. Kevin, grab a dog.
You get first pick. You can pick the smallest one.
The small one looks really bad, to be honest.
That's
Like-
yours?
It looks really like
Looks like a finger.
Can you take the mic?
why? Like
I'm
no,
not-
but like
I'm not-
okay, like look at it. It has. Tell me that does not look like a fingernail.
It does. It looks like
It does a little bit. It does a little bit.
That's yours.
See, I think the way we got here is that we get to experience things as friends.
Can you pick up fast? Thank you.
There was a sound when he picked
Can
it
you
up, like
smell
a
it?
section.
Smell it.
I don't want to smell this. I barely want to eat this. Okay.
We'll do this one.
Smell the dog.
Yeah, we'll take the fingernail.
Mm-mm.
ASMR.
No.
Okay.
Oh, that one did an ASMR.
Don't even do
I'm
that.
like really
Take it.
I'm
excited.
gonna have to like censor all of this. On
I got
camera
the
or
small
something.
one. Look, guys.
Ew, you have a string hanging on my
Wait. Okay. Back to you, Kevin.
Okay. So are we gonna do this
Oh,
one,
should
two,
I cut
three,
ours?
like
Hold
all?
on, me and Ash have to break ours.
Oh, it smells good, guys. Oh. Oh. Guys, it smells so good.
To be continued. We are now
Ew.
splitting a dog.
Why is it so?
I thought you were gonna Lady in the
Why
Tramp
don't one
it.
of you guys just bite
Just
it?
bite it,
I
yeah.
don't think we're allowed to do that on a Christian podcast.
Okay. Okay. So,
That should not have been that hard to rip.
all right. So we're gonna 1, 2, 3 go.
Do we want to cheers?
No. No. Just no.
Okay.
All right,
All right, ready. 1, 2, 3 go.
No.
Who is chewing that loud?
It wasn't me though. So,
It just tastes like a regular gummy.
guys hear this chewing. They heard it.
But why is it so?
There's something off about
texture
the
is.
yes. It feels almost like it's those fake like foam peanut, like the circus peanut things.
Yes.
I want to say it does not taste like hot dogs.
It
It's
does
actually
not.
really good. I would eat this again. Rate it out of like 10. A solid.
Why did you sniff it like that?
I wanted to smell it. A solid
The thing is, it is solid,
7.
and I think that's the problem.
Like a 6.5.
Yeah.
Okay.
This tastes like a gummy that they added too much of that gelatin to it. Like
Kevin, did you even eat it?
he did.
He took like the tiniest bite.
Like that episode of SpongeBob
Yeah.
when Squidward is like,
Can you actually take a bite?
I took a bite. And
Okay.
as we get to me, I'll give my opinion.
I finished mine.
I'm not gonna
Reasonable.
finish this. I'm never gonna eat this again.
There is like a weird aftertaste, right? I don't know what it is.
I like it.
Yeah, I'm not mad at
It
it. I
tastes
think
like
the
a- I'm not
texture
mad.
is just
It
too.
ta-
It's too solid.
It tastes like the Krabby Patty hamburger thing.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I love how I'm just like your mic stand now. Like you could have grabbed the mic at any time. Just kept turning your head too, so I can't even see where I'm putting the mic.
Exactly.
I'm just shoving my hand in front of you. Yeah. First off, I would just like to say if I had seen this, I wouldn't have bought it.
Not even for the experience.
Some things in life don't need to be experienced, and this is one of them.
How worse off are you now that you've experienced it?
A little bit.
A little bit.
So
A
not
little bit.
enough. Not enough.
A little bit. I feel like the rest of my day has been ruined. If I'm being honest. If I'm being honest.
Oh, come on.
I don't like how my hands feel with this. Just like the text, like everything about this. Just
Throw it. Wait, I want to eat it. Throw it.
Did you finish yours?
Yeah, it was like good. 6.5 good.
6.5.
I would honestly give this a 2.
Oh, I wouldn't even give it that.
I'm trying to be nice. I mean, if Oscar Mayer wants to like sponsor us,
Yeah. After
then
my
it's a
global
10.
give it a
review,
then it'll be a
Right.
10.
We'd give it a 10 and
the
we'd
fact that
recommend.
they would have to go through that whole review just to find out it's a 10.
Hold on.
Just
Oscar
for
Mayer,
money.
if you want to sponsor us, I will gladly accept. It's a 10 out of 10 for Pursuit.
No, it is not.
Anyway.
Throw the dog.
Oh wait, Farah, what did you think?
Oh. Yes, Farrah.
I was trying to get her while I was on camera.
How many fuzzies did you just eat from that pillow?
Kevin, like, you didn't even like throw it so I could see to catch.
Oh my goodness. Farah needs the mic.
I don't know if it was okay or not.
Are you okay?
Oh yeah, because she wasted.
That's not a waste. It wasn't all that.
Yo, why did
It was
you need mine to
$5.
eat if hers is right there in the
I
plastic?
didn't see it until I just said oh. I just said oh.
It was right next to you for a whole 2 minutes.
I didn't see it. I was looking at
For a whole 2
Thoughts.
minutes.
Thoughts,
We've only been
Farrah.
recording for 60
Anyway.
seconds, but for a whole 2 minutes. It's just there.
We've been recording for 10 minutes and 41 seconds, by the way.
Farah, thoughts?
It's way too
What do
long
you?
to be focused
It was
on.
okay. It wasn't all that. I would give it. maybe a 5
They hold it.
I would give it a 5. No more than that.
5 out of 10. So that's a half.
I'm actually disappointed that it doesn't taste like hot dog. A little bit. Just like, you know.
I agree with you. I probably would have hated it more.
Yeah.
Yeah, but
I still expect it to taste like a hot dog.
This is true. I think part of the fear in going into this is
Was that it
what-
would.
is that it would taste like hot dogs, and it's that fear that kept us on. I don't know.
I'm happy that we tried this as friends.
Together, yeah.
And together,
Yes.
you know, maybe next time we'll try the bacon one. We don't know.
We don't know where life
We
will
don't
take
know,
us.
but you know, we did it together.
Yeah.
And doing this together, that's how we, you know, connect to Jesus.
Exactly.
By eating
It's important to
fruit-flavored-
fellowship.
If anything, I'll be very honest. I feel further away from Jesus in this moment than I have for like the entire year. Okay?
But that we experienced it as friends.
Yeah, together.
And it was
I
nice.
think
And
it
it's
brought-
the
it brought
holidays
us
are
together.
here. It brought us
It
together.
brought us together.
Did it? Did it really?
It brought us
I
together.
think it brought us together.
I think
having
it created a
experience.
division right here. All right? I don't think it brought anyone together.
It brought me and this hot dog together.
Yeah, a little too closely.
I like my dogs.
All right. Well, anyway.
All right. So, well, speaking of being brought closer together as friends, this episode we're going to be talking about relationships, with the main focus on friendships and what that can mean for you. So, posing question: how have your friends, either now or in the past, how have they impacted your life and the decisions you've made or the experiences you've had?
I think both negatively and positively.
Mm-hmm.
Because I think I can say when I was younger, like some of my friends impacted me negatively, especially because I didn't have as many, you know, Christian friends, you know, people that were genuinely following Christ.
Mm-hmm.
And I think now, being older, having friends that genuinely do, it's definitely positive, because when you go to them for advice, it's going to be like more, okay, well, let's pray about it. Maybe you can try this. Maybe you can try that. And it's constructive, as opposed to like, oh, that sucks. Let's go drinking.
That'll solve it all.
Like, exactly. Like, that'll solve it all. And I'm like, y'all need Jesus. No, thanks. So I think that having friends can impact you positively. I know it has impacted me positively to have Christian friends as I'm older.
Yeah, I agree. I think, like you said, growing up, there's not much. You kind of struggle with knowing who you are in that at a young age also. So it's kind of like when you're picking friends, you're not that wise about it. And I feel like when you get older, you kind of realize that, you know, your friends, they can either like lift you up or bring you down. So I feel like when you surround yourself with people who have the same values as you, it can impact you positively.
My friends made me eat a gummy
I was wondering if I would bring.
Oscar Mayer hot dog. So I'm gonna say negative.
You're basing our whole friendship off of the fact that you ate an Oscar Mayer.
That I was forced
He didn't even
against
How
my
were you
will
forced? Did we shove it
to eat.
on you? No. I said, "Here, Kevin, pick one," and you.
And
picked
then when I
one.
didn't take one, you guys kept like, "Oh, you gotta take one. You gotta take one."
Okay.
peer
All right.
pressure.
So you gave in.
Exactly.
Live above it. Okay.
Yeah.
So-
Maybe don't give in next time.
Yeah, you're just weak.
Maybe let's
Maybe my friends would give me positive things to do. No, but being as I barely remember the question at this point, I'm just gonna say, I think when it comes to friends, to Ramey's point, I think it matters who the actual person is when it determines if it's a negative or positive impact. Without that part of it, you know, you have a bunch of low quality friends, it's gonna be low quality relationships, I guess. So
And experiences.
yeah, like this.
terrible.
I think this was a high quality experience. Okay.
Can I just say something? Sometimes with friendships, friends know your weaknesses and your strengths. And we knew that you're not good at trying things. So we gave you a hot dog. We're helping you.
That is not true. I have no problem trying things. I just have a problem trying the things that, and honestly, within this group, it's specifically her that she brings up to try. Okay, because it's always random.
No, a lot of things
He's
were
pointing
me.
at
Like,
Chrissy
do you
in
remember
case y'all didn't know.
the coffee jelly beans?
That wasn't as bad as this.
I think, yeah, but I
I
okay,
will
but
say-
she bought
here's the
them because
thing.
she knew I would have tried them, right?
Here's the thing, though. You still tried them, and I think that it brings us closer. It gives us stories.
Yeah,
Real friends understand your quirks,
yeah,
like why I'm sitting here with reindeer antlers
and baubles in her
and
buns.
baubles in my buns. But I don't know. I think it's a funny story that we can tell in the future.
I'm all about experiencing new things with my friends. And, you know, like, why not try a gummy hot dog?
What's
why,
the harm?
Why keep doing the same thing over and over? We could try something new, you know?
I agree.
Right. So maybe if
I don't
you
remember
bought
that
something,
far.
Kevin, we would try that. But, you know, you didn't
So
bring
then
anything.
our next thing, Kevin has to bring something for us to try, and we all have to try it.
I agree.
I think it should be brisket.
We all have to try
I feel like
it.
all of you already tried that though.
Well, who says I
Yeah.
can't try it again?
Try what?
It's like 12 hours of cooking
Try what?
for a
But
10-minute
it's worth
segment.
it.
It's worth it.
Brisket.
It's so good.
Kevin's
I've
brisket?
never had brisket, and that was the first time I tried brisket, and it was fantastic.
See, I invite you guys to try new things.
I didn't even try the brisket.
Okay.
All right. So, we talked about how when we're younger, we don't necessarily make the best choices when it comes to making friends, right?
Yeah.
So what kind of, never mind. I was going to ask what kind of experiences led you to picking better friends. If you want to divulge, go ahead.
I think
But no.
I think what led me to choosing better friends was honestly like deepening my walk with Christ, like getting to a point in my life where I was like, you know what, like these people are okay. Like it's not that the people I was friends with were these horrendous people. It's just that I need people in my life that are going to lead me closer to Christ and that are going to be like, hey, you know what, let's pray about this. Let's do this instead. Like, why don't we meet? And, you know, so I think that it was just, I got to a point in my life where a lot of really bad stuff was happening. And I was just like, okay, like this needs to turn around. Like my personal life needs to turn around. Like we need to just do this.
And I think one of the things that comes with it as well is like when you get older and you mature and you try to figure out who you are and like where your priorities actually lie, you can kind of notice that like, hey, yeah, I'm friends with these people, but we're not having any real like meaningful like we're not building anything from this friendship. Like, yeah, we'll go out, we'll hang out. Like we won't like it's not furthering me from Christ, but it's also not bringing me to him, right?
Exactly.
It's just we're just there. So I think as we get older, we notice that like, hey, like if this isn't really bringing anything to my life, I don't know how worth it is. As we get older, we really start to like notice that like if we're not having meaningful like depth or like building on these relationships, it doesn't really serve us any purpose in life. So I feel like a lot of times when I've spoken to friends over time, they're like, yeah, I used to have so many friends when I was in high school or like early college, but now it's like I have like one friend that I actually talk to all the time, or like just a handful of people that are in that closer circle. Is anyone?
Yeah.
There wasn't a question.
No, I think it's true, and it really becomes. I think for me, it became very confusing, because it was like, well, like what do I do? Do I just like ghost people then? Like, do I, like, how am I supposed to, like, do I just physically say like, hey, this friendship isn't serving me, so we're not gonna be friends anymore? And I think part of what I learned is not to do either. And to just kind of, you know, you slowly decrease the amount of time that you spend with those people.
So I also think a big part of it is when you're younger, you're honestly trying to figure out a lot of who you are, right? So I think it's hard to necessarily pick good friends when, especially because more often than not, you're picking all your friends like at school, right? When you're in those younger age, right? Everyone's trying to figure out who they are, right? As you get older, maybe you get a better sense of who you are. Some of your friends get a better sense, and you know, you can maybe start to kind of whittle down the friends. Same thing then when you get to like college and things like that. Even when you get out of college, it's kind of the same thing, right? You start, you again begin to kind of have a better sense of who you are. I think that for a lot of us, as you begin to understand who you are, you now go, oh, I want more of these types of people in my life and less of these, right? And I think that's where you end up with the thought of, well, I don't need this person in my life anymore, right? Because it's either they're going to drag me away from who I'm trying to be, right? Or, because I think there are some people who are just like, they don't move you forward and they don't take you backwards. And for me, I'm like, all right, if it's stale, all right, just leave it alone, right? But then there's some people who I think will pull you back, and then you do have to start having those harder decisions of, you know what, I don't think I can keep you in my life or close in my life.
Mhm.
Right. And I think that's where sometimes you end up with that, to have a hard conversation, because it's like, how do you tell someone who you might have been close to, right? Hey, we can't be as close as we once were. To, yeah, I mean, I think that's where a lot of people kind of get tripped up sometimes.
Yeah, I think it's hard, especially like you said, when it's that you were very close to this person at one time, and sometimes it just happens organically and you drift apart, and things like that happen, because I've had that happen to me where I was very close to somebody and life just kind of happens. You grow up, you get jobs, you get married, you have kids, you have no time. I have no time. And the people who understood that are still around, but we're definitely not close like we were before. It definitely, like, as you grow up and your life changes and you start working, or even in school, when you're in school you don't have time for anything, like especially in college. Like, I don't remember having a lot of time to just, like, I know it depends, but like for me, like, I was in college, I was working 2 jobs, and I had to, like, take care of my mom. Like, it's a lot. So depending on your experience, life might just do it for you and you won't have to.
I've noticed that so during college or high school and stuff, the friends that have stuck around are ones that I have found more meaningful, like, relationships with. So like in college, like you're saying, like, a lot of times you don't have time, like, for friends or to hang out, but they're the friends that I used to study with. So like we didn't have time to hang out because of college or because they had work, but we would find things that we had to do, like if we had to do the same things, we would just do them together. Right? So we'd be studying together, or if I needed to, like, run an errand or, like, get something, we'd do that together if they had to do, like, the same things. And I found that that's kind of one of the ways I've kept meaningful relationships, and they've, like, surpassed the test of time, because it's not like there was no need to grow apart, right? We just kind of grew together.
Yeah.
And I think that's the other end of the spectrum, where you have those friendships that grow together and they're nice because you both, or the group of you, or however many of you it is, you all grow in one place, and it becomes more meaningful, like you said.
Yeah. And I think, even though we know it, how important it is, like, God wants us to have relationships in our life, it's also a lot of the time when you grow up, like, you go through your different stages, you will need to be independent. And I think that independence teaches you and also, like, builds you up to, like, be better in your relationships, like your friendships. And you start to realize a lot of, like, who you are. And then in that moment, you are also, like, naturally, like shedding people that, don't see, you guys don't align anymore.
And I think yes, it's so important to have relationships, not only in general, but especially within, like, the church, and when you're finding yourself and who you are as a person, because, like we've said it before, like, if they're not bringing you closer to God, then they're probably not the person that should be in your life, right? But I I don't think you should limit yourself to only having relations with people within the church. Because as, like, the Great Commission, you're called to go out into the world, to not be of the world, but to go out into it, right? So I have, like, coworkers or friends that I've made throughout life where they're not necessarily, like religious or Christians, but through me, like, speaking of, like, oh, I'm doing this for the kids in church, or, like, we have this coming up, they'll, like, anytime they go out, or they'll, like, Christmas is coming up or whatever, they'd be like, hey, I saw this and I think it would really go good for your kids in church, or, like, for this event that you guys are having. And so that kind of brings up the conversation again, where I can kind of, like, tell them, like, yeah, we're doing this, this, and this. and this is the reason that we do certain things, or like certain things like that, and it kind of opens that door to bring up that conversation, and then they do become more inclined to like learn about God and Jesus and all those things that we talk about all so often.
Yeah.
I knew you were gonna do that again.
I think that's true. I think where you run into an issue when you're younger is when you're depending on those people
Yes.
who don't, like, because like you said, it's a wonderful opportunity when you know people who aren't Christian to be like, hey, like, this is what we're doing in church, and you get to kind of like, you're talking about what you're doing in your day-to-day life, but really you're also taking that opportunity to share the gospel, like, yeah, we're teaching the kids about Jesus and when he did this and this and this,
Yeah.
and you can expand on it. It is a good opportunity, but it can also be a landslide, because like you said, people can hold you back. So sometimes if there are people who will be very respectful and then will be open to wanting to learn about Christ and everything we're saying about God and why don't you come to church and all of that. But then there's also people who then will turn into like, ugh, like, you're going to church again? Like, why can't you just come hang out? Like, it's just one Friday, or it's just one this, or why do you have to go once a month, or why do you have to blah, blah, blah. So I think that's the flip side of it.
Yeah.
It's an amazing opportunity to talk to other people who don't know Christ, but there's also that flip side to it that's like, ugh.
Yeah. And I think we've talked about this before as well. We have it's okay to have different friends for different reasons, right? So when I mentioned like the coworkers, like the other friends that I talk about, so how do I so you can have, like, you have your inner circle, right? That you're closest to, that you tell like a lot of things to or whatever. And I think it's important to keep those as people with the same or similar mindset to you, right? So like the people that you've grown up, like, you don't have to grow up with them in the church, but like the people that have that same solid foundation within the church that you have, right? Or even maybe it's more solid than you are, because then they can also help to pick you up, but you don't want to be the person that's dragging them down at the same time. So there's like, it's hard to find that balance within your friendship groups. And I think when we are younger, that is where we find the trouble. Like, you're like on a balancing, being like, where do I draw the line between my close inner circle that I tell things to, versus the people that I go out, or like, not go out with, but the people that I can just be comfortable being around. And then, so for this episode, I kind of wanted to look at the story in the Bible where Jesus was like going about and preaching and like throughout the nation or the area, and he was preaching in a house this time, right? So the house was fully packed out, and there was a man that was paralyzed, right? Could not walk, could not move. He's just laying on a bed this whole time. So in this story or example it wasn't in this experience within the Bible, his friends got him up to the roof. They like unthatched it, I guess, because it was like they like removed whatever was on the roof and they dropped him in there in front of Jesus, right? And whenever I think of that story, it's like, oof, you really like it. Those were really good friends, because first of all, you had to get him up to the roof, right? Like, there's no elevator. There's no, like this is like a clay house probably. So the fact that your friends lifted you off of the ground and got you on top of the roof and then destroyed someone else's roof just to drop you into their house, like, that's a really substantial friendship. So whenever I think of that, it's like, well, do I think my friends would do that for me if needed? Bara said no.
We would.
We would. I
Not
think.
Farah, but you know, the rest of
The
your
rest
friends
of us would. The rest
you
of
know?
us would lower you down.
Right?
You probably won't
would
like
also.
be lowered down. We'd probably just like, drop
Slide
you
me
in,
down,
but
right?
like you would get there.
I'd get to where I need to go.
Yeah.
And I think that's like, that sounds like a very extreme thing to think about, but I don't think it's too much to measure your friendships by, right? Because if your friends aren't willing to get you to where you need to go, when you yourself can't do that, then I think you should maybe reevaluate them or see like where your priorities and their priorities are lying.
I think a big part of that story is the physical ailment that he has, right, of just being paralyzed, because there's a lot of other guys in the Bible that Jesus heals who they're kind of just sitting on the side of like the road or something, and it's more often than not it might have been people led them there and then just left them there till like the end of the day to come and collect them, right? And part of me believes to some degree it's not unfathomable that they could have done the same thing with this guy, just prop them up against like a house or a gate or whatever, because I think a lot of the guys would be like left by like the temple gates or something, so as people are coming to temple they'll see them and like, you know, give them some money or whatever. Instead, I think what becomes remarkable about this story is that instead of just leaving him there and then coming back at the end of the day or whatever it is, they actually bring him in front of Jesus, and they don't allow any obstacle to stop them, right? Because again, when you understand the story, there's so many people there that I believe there's like a crowd forming outside of the house as well.
Like
right?
there was no way inside of the house through the door.
Right. And somehow they get to the roof, break it, and you know, lower this guy in front of Jesus. I think when we talk about friendships, those friends are very, I want to say, rare.
Yeah.
Right? And I think a lot of those friendships need work. Right? And I think that's something we don't really talk about when we talk about friendships. Right? I one of the things that I've been thinking about a lot is that when it comes to friends, I think there's a lot of things we talk about in like a romantic relationship that apply to a platonic relationship that we don't talk about, like the fact that friends need to communicate, right? To get to that level of friendship, there has to be communication. There has to be a desire to be with each other, right? And I think when you look at this, you're seeing not only do these guys have this strong bond, but when their friend is unable to do something, they see the opportunity for their friend because they know, hey, this may be the only time he ever gets healed. Instead of him being essentially destined to just kind of wither away on this mat or whatever it was, they say, no, hey, we're going to take him to Jesus, right? We may not even get to Jesus, but we're gonna do our best, right? And I think when it comes to us building friends and things like that, I think it's so crucial that we actually pray about our friends and like who I've been in church long enough, and I feel like Rami, you may understand this one too, of like you've been probably told like pray for like your future spouse, but you haven't met them yet, but you gotta pray for them. It's like, can I just pray for like my friends? Like who are the people that are around me, right? Who are the people that could help me meet my future spouse or things like that? Who are the people that are going to be around me for the rest of my life? And I think that we as believers, yes, we obviously can't ignore people outside of the church, right? And if you work outside of the church, obviously you're going to have co-workers, and you'll have to determine the level of friendship you have with them, right? Because every coworker is going to be a little different, right? Same thing when you're at school, college, whatever level it is, you're going to have to figure all that out. But I think when it comes to that core group of people who are always that, I think you kind of expect to always be standing beside you. I think that's what you have to be praying about and saying, okay, is this someone that should be in that inner circle, right? Is it not, and again, that goes back, because if Jesus is saying no to what we said when we started, you're going to have some uncomfortable conversations. But I think it'd be worse if you ignore Jesus at that point.
Was it always worse when we do that?
Definitely.
I think yes.
I agree. And I do agree with what you said, Kevin, when you know, especially when you start to get to a certain age. I'm not
Yeah.
exactly sure what that age is, but everybody starts saying like, "Are you praying for your husband? Are you praying for your wife?" And it's like, no, what about these people? Like, because when it comes down to it, like, there are friends that I had before I was married that I no longer have. And it was because I very genuinely started praying, like, hey, like, God, please, if these people are not supposed to be in my life, please remove them from my life. And it was a hard thing. All of a sudden, like, all these people, like, kind of stopped talking to me. And I mean, not all these people. It's not like I had a million friends, but, you know, like, people stopped talking to me. And I was just like, well, what's happening? And, like, why is this happening? And it's like, you know, like, sometimes those people aren't meant to be in your life. And there's a reason for it. And a lot of times it's hard to see because we care for them. They're our friends. You know, it's very hard to say, like, okay, you and me aren't friends anymore, when it's somebody, like we said before, that you're really close to.
Yeah, and I think that's one of the harder things about growing up, because you're like, oh yeah, I want to be friends with everyone. I want to have all the friends and do all of the things. But then as you grow up and you learn how to discern between your friends and, like, your priorities and who you are as a person, that period of, like, loss is difficult to go through, because sometimes, like, especially, like, as a teenager, like, I feel like most people have this experience of where it's like you're not yet secure in who you are as a person, but you know what you don't want, right? So a lot of times when you're going through that period of loss in friends, you're like, is it something that I'm doing that's wrong? Like, am I not being a good friend to them? Or is it just that we have outgrown each other and we no longer have a purpose for each other as friends in this way? And that's, I think once you realize the fact that it's okay to just outgrow friends or just not have people around you constantly, and that's when you can kind of focus on making those other friendships more meaningful, the ones that, like, you should be having, like, the ones that you should be focusing on.
Yeah.
Correct. So how do we make these friendships more meaningful? Like, how do we know which friends we should be sticking around versus the ones we shouldn't? And I know you mentioned it before, like, for like, if these people are meant to be around you, just praying for them or praying to know.
Yeah. I think it also comes with the territory of deepening. That's not a word.
Yeah, it is.
Oh, it isn't? Oh, okay. Of growing deeper. Sorry. Of growing deeper in your faith. You know, because you start praying for different things.
Yeah.
When you grow deeper in your faith. And I started, you know, and it takes a while sometimes to make the connection, because I started praying, like, God, like, if there's people in my life that aren't meant to be there, like, please take them out. And then all of a sudden people started dropping like flies, and I'm like, God, what's happening to all my friends? And he's probably up there like, ma'am, you just said. But, you know, I think that's a big part of it. Like Kevin said, praying for your friends and genuinely praying that they're okay, and not just praying for your friends when they ask you to pray for them, that they're going through something, but just constantly praying for their well-being, for, you know, anything that, you know, God, if they're going through something that we don't know about, that I don't know about, like, give them strength, you know, constantly praying for them, but also praying for God to give you the wisdom to discern who should be there, and for him just to straight up take people out of your life. Because sometimes like, for me, there was this girl that I was friends with, and her and I were super close. Like, she was one of my bridesmaids. I don't talk to her anymore. And that really hurt. Like, when all of a sudden she pulled back and I stopped talking to me, that hurt. And my other friend, like, I was talking to her about it, and I was like, I'm going to ask her. And she's like, Remy, just leave it alone. And I'm like, no, I'm going to ask her. I need to know why. But I see now, you know, years after it happened, like there's a reason for it. Like God will bring people into your life, but he'll also take people out of your life if you ask him. And not even just if you ask him, if he feels, you know, so he is God. If something is not for good for you, you know. But if you genuinely ask God, I think that he'll show you.
I think it was important that you noted that it was like years after, like looking back at it,
Yes.
you can see that there was a reason.
Yes.
And I think that's kind of like when you get to that point, it's like, oh, I shouldn't have been friends with them. Because, like, you know, when you're a teenager and your mom or, like, your parent or someone older, just like, yeah, you shouldn't be friends with them. You're like, I literally see nothing wrong with this friendship. I don't understand what you're talking about. And then, like, years down the line, you're like, oh.
Yeah.
Yeah. So.
Thank you. Goodness.
Were you not just complaining that I was?
I was kidding. It was a sarcastic remark.
We kid.
Do you need
Not
a
gonna lie, I
reminder
was
of the
zoned out for
question?
half of that conversation. So.
Anyway, my question was, how do we make these relationships more meaningful? How do we deepen these friendships?
I think Rennie, or, I don't know what name I just said. Sorry, Remy. Yeah, I think what you said was spot on. Like, you have to be praying for your friends, and you know, sometimes I like what you said also with relationships, like your friendships. Make sure that you guys are communicating and that you know each other and are spending time with each other, because sometimes with friendships it's not going to be so obvious that your friend is going through something, or if something's off with the friendship, that doesn't mean like you should cut it off unless you're like praying about it and it does, you know, happen. But like, you know, just continue to nurture that relationship and, you know, be there for each other as much as you can.
And I think too, you have to make sure you're compatible.
Yep.
Like that's a big part of friendships too. Like I don't like camping. I don't like nature. I'm not going to be best friends with someone who loves hiking and camping and all of those things. Like it's one of those things where you need to have some sort of common ground. Like obviously you're going to have your interest that I'm not into, and I'm going to have interest that you're not into. That's perfectly fine. But at the core, you know, if you're talking about spending time together, which is something that you should do, and in any relationship, it's important to spend time together and to actively, you know, do things together. It's going to be kind of a downer when you're constantly like, hey, Remy, let's go fishing. And I'm like, how about we go to Starbucks? Like, it's something that you don't really think about.
Yeah.
I think sometimes, especially when you're younger, like you don't really think about it. You're just like, yeah, let's go. And then you get there and you're miserable because you just want to go along with whatever your friend says. I think it's important for you to have that independence. Like Asha said earlier, it's important for you to know who you are and what you like, so that you can be like, yeah, I really don't enjoy doing that. Like, thanks for the invite, but no, thank you. Like, and that's, you know, where you need to have that common ground. So that you can spend time, so you can spend quality time together, because I think that's really important in friendships.
I think, I know we like mentioned communication a lot, but I think it's important to have deeper communication. So not just speaking to them all the time or like talking often, but what is it that you're talking about? Like, am I just sending you a TikTok all the time, or is it like we can hold a conversation, right? Because the level of communication is what really defines the relationship. Like, if I have a problem, like, Remy, I don't like your baubles. I love them. I'm kidding. I love them.
Which, by the way, I feel like we should explain the baubles. It is December. It is
Christmas.
the holidays.
You can't really
you can't really see them, but I'm a very festive person, so that's why we're here.
thought this
And
was
they
a Christmassy
understand
sweater.
me. It is a
Ish.
Christmassy sweater. I'm just saying you can't really
Yeah.
see the baubles in my hair.
Oh.
Yeah.
But yeah, like if I have a problem with my friend, am I comfortable bringing it to them and we can like talk through or work it out? Or is it the kind of friendship where it's just like, yeah, I'm just not going to say anything and hope like we can just move on from that? Because if you're not comfortable having uncomfortable conversations, then it's like, how deep is your friendship really? No.
Yeah. I didn't have the mic. I didn't have the mic.
Is that all you have to contribute to this conversation?
Yo, I feel like I said so much this episode.
He did.
Right?
He
I feel like
did.
I said so much this episode. And that, yo, choose your friends wisely, people.
Yeah, please do. Please.
I think the level of communication, like you said, is an important. See, like we just called Kevin out on something and he
Got salty about
got
it.
salty, but he knows that we are friends.
Are we? Far
We're not friends.
Oh, wait. Say it again.
Now she got shy.
We're not friends.
You're
Oh,
not friends
dear.
with who?
Yeah, specify.
Drop
'Cause
the
there's
name.
a lot of us here. He's not even in frame, so I have to cut back. So you're not friends with who?
Ooh.
Who are you friends with, Farah? Who are you
My
not friends with,
goodness.
Farah?
Dun dun dun.
Nobody.
Oh dear.
Okay.
No, I'm not. Listen, okay, wait.
Farah's
Y'all
not
took it
friends
the
with
wrong-
anybody.
No, I said nobody.
She's not friends
Okay,
with nobody,
nobody.
so she is friends with everyone.
Yes.
Oh, I
The
see
double
what she
double
did.
negative cancels
She
out.
double negativated us.
Yeah.
So who
yeah.
are you not friends with? You said
There's nobody that I'm not friends with.
But you see, now you're friends with everyone. So
You
are you
just
even? Do
said-
you know what a friend is? Because you can't be friends with everyone.
Why not?
Well, if I'm
Farah,
quoting
you
my
literally-
mother,
Hold
you
on,
just
guys
said, Farah, you just said we are not friends.
To Kevin.
I
Who was-
didn't. Whoa! I didn't say to
Run it back.
anybody.
Run it
Whoa.
back.
No, wait.
Run
but
that
then
back,
she
Turbo.
included all of us.
You
and then
said-
she said we're all friends.
Listen, we're all friends. That's that.
Honestly, just what a friend we have in Jesus. Amen.
amen. What a friend
Big
you
homie.
have in Jesus. He really is the ultimate friend.
He is. What better love does a friend have than to lay down his life? What's the scripture?
We're doing so well.
So painful to watch.
Say it again. Because
I have to look it up now.
what?
Dang it.
What? What's the saying?
Exactly.
What better friend?
What?
Oh my gosh.
What?
It's not a lyric in the song.
It's not the song.
I like that song.
Side note, this is why it's important to read your Bible.
I read it.
All of it.
I just don't memorize like
It's
word for
important
word.
to memorize.
What a better friend to have than a friend like Jesus.
No.
What are you saying?
That was even worse.
No. The verses.
That would lay down his.
His life.
Oh,
Yeah, I got that part.
Kevin, since you know it, why don't you just recite it for us?
No greater love than this than a man lay down his life for a friend.
Thank you. Sign off.
Thank you.
Wait, but you didn't say that with compassion.
He
Like, can you
didn't.
say it a little bit better into the camera?
No. We're just gonna.
Yeah.
Do we want to see that? No, I'm kidding.
Wait.
Oh, no, I'm not saying. I'm just adjusting myself.
Well,
Apparently, we're not friends, but we are. So
According to Pharaoh.
maybe I just need better ones. Maybe that's what this
we
episode.
get to that in every episode?
I think that's what
I
this
just
episode
want to
has
thank you
taught
for
me.
still watching this episode and following what's been going on. Because
Yeah. If you would like to be friends, apparently I need new ones. So reach out. Comment below. Drop your ads.
I'm gonna put your Instagram.
Do it. Drop it.
If you would like to be friends with us,
We'll have it moving across the screen.
please follow us on our Instagrams.
Yeah. And follow the church as well.
Please follow
At Faith
First
Assembly
You don't
NY,
like that idea
as
at
well
all,
as-
Asha.
Except Asha's.
I'll put
Don't
like a
put
random. I'll put like a random person
Yes.
like
Yes.
whose Instagram handle is Asha.
Wait, that is
and
actually
just give them a bunch of.
that is
followers.
actually a really good point. Setting boundaries with friends.
Yeah.
what Asha said. I think it's a really good point. You have to set up boundaries where you know that those boundaries aren't going to be pushed in a good way. Like sometimes, like for me, sometimes I need a little push to do things like this disgusting hot dog thing.
It was
I
not
would
even disgusting.
I would never have done it if you guys hadn't brought it up, but I did it. And I'm not gonna say I'm necessarily worse for wear, but it was an experience. And sometimes, like for me personally, like sometimes I need that little bit of a push in my boundaries so that I can try things and do things and whatnot. But it's important to have friends that are going to know when to push your boundaries a little bit and when to be like, okay, no, this is a boundary that needs to be respected. For me, for example, it's like cursing. Like I don't like people cursing around me, and I'll make that very clear. I'll be like, hey, like no cursing. Or like I'll have people come over to my house. I was gonna have some old friends come over to the house, and they were like, oh, we'll bring wine for dinner. And I was like, sorry, not that kind of house, not that kind of party. Like no. And they respected that. You know, and even it doesn't even have to be that big. It can be something smaller depending on who you are, what your boundaries are. But knowing that your boundaries aren't going to be pushed past and broken or trampled over, I think it's very important.
And I think that like that goes back to when we were talking about you have to be comfortable having these uncomfortable conversations with your friends, because it's not always the nicest experience to be like, hey, you actually do this and I'm not comfortable with it. Or you have invited me to go to these kinds of places and that's not somewhere that I feel comfortable going or something that I like to do. And if they can't respect you in those ways, then again, it's time to reevaluate these relationships that you have in your life. So if you would like to be friends, again, thank you for watching.